District Attorney Sandra Doorley, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter. My name is Chris Johnchester. I've never committed a crime. On my phone here is a parking lot. Can you see that parking lot? There's two of my neighbors that are walking through it. Can you see it? I've sent you photographs of this. And this photograph has been attached in PDF documentation that I've also emailed to your office. How is it a crime to walk to that parking lot? Sheriff Todd K. Baxter and District Attorney Sandra Doorley. It's not a crime to walk to that parking lot. And yet there was a warrant for my arrest by $67,000 Shannon Meyer for walking through that parking lot, just like my excellent friend Adam walks through it. His mother and father walked through it. The elderly woman across the street from me walked through that parking lot. Penfield High School students walked through that parking lot. There's a parade of individuals that walked through that parking lot beginning at 7 a.m. until midnight. Because I could see the individuals late at night through the sliding glass door on the first floor. Because they'd walk right by a business called Consumer Insights at 2025 Penfield Road, and a light on the building illuminates the parking lot, and I'd see them. I walked through the parking lot one day for the 4,000th time, and Neeraj Shah is outside. It's a 50-year-old man who lives with his 70-year-old mother. This guy's a capital L for loser. He starts to scream at me. We have this confrontation. It's a nasty confrontation where I told him to fuck off and I gave him the finger because he's screaming at me. He is losing his mind, screaming like a psychopath. And you two should be able to understand what a psychopath is because you're psychopaths. I'm not exaggerating. It's not hyperbole. You, Sandra Doorley, are a psychopath. I've been in jail 6 times. 6 times your prosecutor hasn't taught in court. 6 times you refuse to identify your prosecutors. You, Todd K. Baxter, arresting me for crimes I haven't committed, and your fellow psychopaths are violently attacking me, which I've explained to you repeatedly, and I'll continue to explain to you, and I'll continue to explain it to the United States Department of Justice, the United States Attorney, to the Western District of New York, treating you wrong. So I'm going to show you this again, you party-switching degenerates. This is it right here. That's a parking lot. Do you see that parking lot right there? How is that a crime for me to walk through that parking lot? How is that possibly a crime for me to walk through that parking lot? It's not a crime. That's the answer. If you believe that it's a crime for me to walk through the parking lot, explain in detail how that's a crime. And then where's my 14th Amendment right to equal protection laws? You smashed into a million little pieces. And Sheriff Baxter, when I go over to Wegmans, when I say go over to Wegmans, I walk past Wegmans when I'm walking into Fairport to go to Gold's Gym. I constantly see your fellow psychopaths in their vehicles alongside Wegmans. Doing nothing. They are truly doing nothing. You're sitting there talking when the job of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office is to police the roads. There's one of them driving right by. I'm walking toward Wegmans to the side where the donuts are. And your 20, 30, 40 plus pounds overweight fellow psychopaths must know that that's the side of Wegmans with the donuts. Perhaps you've heard the cliche, the donut-eating cop. I'm trying not to laugh. Because cops love donuts, and so do you, Todd Baxter, because you're using 20 pounds overweight. So stop eating donuts, Todd, baby. Well, here, this guy right here. This guy right here. Can you see him? He comes driving right by me. I have my phone in my pocket. I'm thinking, this is the money shot of the century for me. I took my phone out. You can see the Wegmans sign in the background here. There he is right there. So, what are they doing at Wegmans? Since I was evicted from my residence, 26 Sanders Farm Drive, and I no longer go into Fairport or Gold's Gym, and I'm at a residence that's a temporary one. I hope to move into a new permanent residence soon because I'm being helped by wonderful, terrific people, the United States Department of Veteran Affairs, like Robert Valente and Pepper Lisiski. I would be homeless and outside. That's not an exaggeration. Without the help of Pepper Lisiski and Robert Valente, the United States Department of Veteran Affairs. So anyway, life is good because I'm being helped with people that have hearts of gold, and you two party-switching sociopaths would know anything about hearts of gold. Do you understand me? Our prosecutors never talked in court. You sociopath, Sandra Doorley, and I've been in jail 6 times and you're refusing to tell me their names. I've been violently attacked by your fellow psychopaths, Todd Baxter, by a psychopath with the last name Siemens at the Penfield Public Library, but a psychopath at 2157 Penfield Road, where 5 of your vehicles, 10 of your employees were there. And one of them who saw me, she's unforgettable, and you're going to know exactly who she is. She has a Marine-style crew cut and she has tattoos, and she has jewelry. There is no Monroe County Sheriff Office employee that looks like her. She saw me violently attacked, and when I subsequently saw her again, I said to her, this is when I was arrested for double jeopardy on Penfield Road, and there she is again. And it was me and her in her vehicle. She's driving me to jail for double jeopardy, which I've described to you. And I said to her, you saw me violently attacked at Wegmans. When that Monroe County Sheriff Office employee exited his vehicle, ran at me, knocked me to the ground, my head slammed against the concrete, and I had to get an MRI. And she sat there in stone cold silence. What's her name? You know exactly who I'm talking about. There's no one that looks like her. She's unique. She's different. And she saw me violently attack. You know what she did? Nothing. Because she's the Blue Wall Sounds, just like you're the Blue Wall Sounds. Attacked the Penfield Public Library psychopath last name Siemens. I do not know Siemens' first name. When I find out his first name, I write a criminal complaint. I was violently attacked at Wegmans, where 10 of your fellow psychopaths witnessed this crime upon me. So, my 50th birthday, July 4, 2015. I got 2 speeding tickets. In my place of employment of Albany, New York, in my place of employment in Washington, D.C. I went to court. I was dismissed, no points, no fines. I've been charged with criminal attempt second, harassment second, and attempted felony assault on my back porch. Todd Baxter. I'm walking through the parking lot for the 4,000th time, and Nate Shah starts to scream at me, losing his mind. I have this confrontation, and then Elliot Ross says to me, who works at this building, Consumer Insights, that you can see. Consumer Insights is right here. And I'm walking through the parking lot, and Elliot Ross says to me, you're going to be arrested. Tell me how this is a crime, Todd Baxter. I don't have any photographs, so that's what I'm showing on the phone. Steve Desmond rides his tractor along that grass thread. See that grass thread? That grass has no ownership. Because Timothy Murphy, the Monroe County Officer of Real Property, can't confirm it, and Layla Kumar and Nate Shah don't have the documentation. What your sick hack Shannon Meyer did is told Steve Desmond and Brock Coltrane and don't care, ride your tractor along this grass right here and get Chris Chichester to come out of his residence and we're going to arrest him. But that's not a crime. If you're going to concoct the crime for me, you should put a dead prostitute in my bed, Todd Baxter. That's a better way to do it. Do you understand me? You skinhead, party-switching, degenerate, fanatic, and sociopath. So anyway, Todd K. Baxter, tell me how this is a crime. Desmond rides his tractor along the grass here. I come outside, I stand right here. I'm standing right here, Todd. I say nobody owns that land and walk back into my residence. How's that a crime? I'm not trying to be facetious or humorous or sarcastic. Todd K. Baxter, how is that a crime? The answer is that it's not a crime. And you're going to exist in that stone cold aberrant silence. I tell Steve Desmond nobody owns that land next to my residence. I walk back in my residence. Meyer, 30 minutes later, runs into my backyard, falls down on her face. 5 other psychopaths from the sheriff's office are there. They pound on my door. I answer the door. They say, we want to talk to you outside. The handcuffs go on. That's not a crime, Todd Baxter. I'm not committing criminal attempt second. You take me to Monroe County Jail. Handcuffed me inside the jail cell. I urinated on myself and released. I ran home from the jail. It's not the first time I ran home from jail. So shortly thereafter, I go to a defunct gym called PW Fitness in Penfield. I'm on the bench press, and up walks to me Jermaine L. Beman. Jessica Wagner, District Attorney's Office, knows Jessica, Jermaine L. Beman, District Attorney Sandra. Jermaine L. Beman is her client. Beman motions with his arm. He goes like that, quickly. I say, I'll be 30 seconds. Beman stands over me. I can see his penis outline in his small, tight shorts. He stands over me, punches down, my head snaps back violently, Beman walks away. At that moment, Todd Baxter, when Jermaine L. Beman snaps my head back, when I'm on a bench press, who am I harassing? I can see his back walk away from me. A witness calls the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. In walks $79,000 Andrew Reale. Andrew Reale knows me because of criminal attempt second. He knows exactly who I am. He tells me and Beman to go outside. We do. As I'm leaving PW Fitness, this defunct gym, who did I harass inside the gym, Todd Baxter? I'm not being rhetorical. Who am I harassing? Who did I harass at any point inside this gym? Who did I harass when I was on the bench press? Who did I harass when Jermaine Beman snapped my head back? Who is it? Who's the victim I'm harassing? If I'm hypothetically guilty of harassment second, there's a victim. Who is it? Raleigh tells me to wait in the backseat of his vehicle. I do. I'm looking at the front of his vehicle. And then he tells Jermaine Beman 7 words to say to me, I want to press charges against you, and I'm charged with harassment second. Todd Baxter. Who am I harassing? I'm not harassing anyone. This is a concoction of a crime for me by $79,000 Andrew Reale, who was not disciplined and who has since helped me. I'm not saying Andrew should be disciplined because I don't have vengeance to the heart for Andrew. That's why. I don't want to see Andrew's career damaged or destroyed. People make mistakes in life, and Andrew did help me. This is a terrible mistake by him. And people make terrible mistakes in life, me included. And he should have his career. And he should get his 20 if he can get his 20. The other individuals that work for you, they should be fired. Shannon Marsh should be fired. And $85,000 Don Benedetto should be fired. Don Benedetto and also Houlihan, he should be fired. I don't know his first name. Walked onto the private property of my 70-plus-year-old neighbor. Now, Todd Baxter, tell me how this is a crime. Because I didn't commit harassment second. I'm not harassing anyone. Criminal attempt second. It's not a crime to tell a man on a track that nobody owns the land next to my residence. You're lying in wait for me. It's not an exaggeration. You're waiting for me. $85,000 Don Benedetto and Houlihan are waiting for me. I leave my residence one night. I believe this is August 28, 2020. I'm going to be in jail for this. I'm going to be in Livingston County Jail, Geneseo for this. Pay attention, you party-switching stooge and half-witted degenerate, Todd Baxter. I leave my residence through the back porch. I walk along the side of my residence. I see Don Benedetto and Houlihan come running at me. Now, when I started to run, Todd K. Baxter, I never stopped running. And at first, I don't know who this is. I turn around and run away. Benedetto and Houlihan are running after me. I get back to the back porch that I just exited 60 seconds earlier. I place my foot on the first step of the 3 steps on the back porch. Houlihan grabs my arm. The hammer I just took hold of, which is a hammer I used to fix my bike as I'm a bike rider. The bike is alongside the residence, and I ran past my bike with Houlihan and Benedetto. Houlihan grabs my arm. The hammer goes up. I pull away. I run across the back porch through the sliding glass door. I never stopped running. The only point where I was impeded from running is when Houlihan grabbed my arm and the hammer went up. I didn't swing a hammer at Houlihan. You party-switching degenerate sociopath Todd Baxter. If I wanted to swing a hammer at Houlihan, I would have stopped it. I would have cracked them over the head with the hammer. That didn't happen. I have never, in my long life of 57 years, ever engaged in violence. Not one time. There's no violence for me ever. And every friend, every girlfriend, every coworker, every family member, every single person who's ever met me in my life will say he's not violent. He's never been violent. He's never committed a violent act. And here I am charged with this ludicrous fiction, attempted felony assault, where Houlihan, who perjured himself to a grand jury, convened by Michelle Crowley, so I swung a hammer on his back porch. I'm told by Alex Renzi in New York State Supreme Court that there's no such crime as attempted felony assault, either it's assault or not assault. I do not know if that's true. In my research, which I'm continuing to do about this concoction, I do not know if Alex Renzi's right or wrong, because Alex Renzi has me in jail as an innocent man, so I'm going to believe anything he says. I'm not going to come in here and say I agree with Alex Renzi when he's a corrupt judge. And I'm not going to say Alex Renzi says this is not attempted felony assault, which I have in the past, when he's corrupt, this former employee of the district attorney's office. So Todd Baxter, Michelle Crowley convened the grand jury, which I don't know was convened. Isn't that right, Michelle Crowley? Michelle Crowley, why don't you call me to the grand jury? Because I'm your ham sandwich, that's why. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That's the way or how prosecutors that are out of control, that are corrupt, are described. Because you can indict a ham sandwich, meaning you can indict anyone. So I didn't attempt a felony assault Houlihan. I ran the whole time. This is on the body camera footage. Regina Harper, the Monroe County Public Defender, called me to the public defender's office, and I went in there and she played it. I sat there next to Regina, watching myself run away from Houlihan and Benedetto the whole time. I'm wearing camouflage pants because I wear those camouflage pants all the time. Because I love wearing camouflage pants, because it reminds me of 30 years ago, which when I wore camouflage pants every day, because it was my wardrobe. That's why. And you can see those camouflage pants when I'm running away from Houlihan and Benedetto. How do you still employ these individuals? I do not think Andrew Reale should be fired. I believe that Shannon Meyer absolutely should be fired. Don Benedetto should be fired. And Houlihan, whose first name I don't know, who purged himself to grand jury, should be fired. This is what I'm going to tell the United States Department of Justice, too, about Shannon Meyer, Don Benedetto, and Houlihan. This is what I'm going to tell the United States Attorney for the Western District of New York, Trinity Ross, the Office of Governor Kathy Hochul, Senate Majority Andrew Stewart Cousins in Albany, and Speaker Carl Heastie. I'm going to be relentless in communicating with individuals who have power, influence, control over you, Sandra, Doorley, and you, Todd Baxter. You need to be removed from office because you're corrupt. Every single inch of you, Todd Baxter, Sandra, Doorley, is corrupt. Our prosecutors never talked in court. And I'm being delivered to jail, and you refuse to tell me their names, to disclose their names. That's a reason why you're corrupt. I'm being violently attacked by sworn officers of law, and you're refusing to disclose the names of these sworn officers of law, Todd Baxter, and that's why you're corrupt. So, yeah, the Freedom of Information Law. This is dated September 17th right here. 17th, the 19th, 21st, 23rd, right here. What I have in my hand here are 76 Freedom of Information Law documents that you already have. You got them. Here's the card that came back to me. There's a signature right there for District Attorney Sandra Doorley. I think it says RSE. Here's another one here. I can't make that out. M. Farrelly, it says. Okay, that's M. Farrelly. And then this is Lavacator or something like that. Megan somebody for Alex Renzi. So those cards came back. So I'm going to read this again. These cards here, you got it. And you're going to receive it again because what I did just now today on this Sunday, this is United Postal Service right here. These are the receipts for United Postal Service. It says here, expected delivery date. You should get this in the next 48 hours. It's not guaranteed for tomorrow because today's Sunday. But here's my records here. Shipment receipt. This says ship to Alex Renzi in New York State Supreme Court. There's a receipt right there. It says ship to Todd Baxter. There's the receipt right there. And third one, Sandra Doorley is right there. UPS, you got it. And when I say you got it, this is what's coming. This is the documentation. It's the original. The copies were on UPS. I'll begin. If you don't watch, you don't watch. I won't be surprised if nobody watches because I'm talking to the United States Department of Justice. I only care about an audience of one. If only one person in the United States of America watches me on YouTube, I only care about one person. That's America on. I don't think that'll happen. But I'm trying to demonstrate a point in that I'm on here to reach and communicate with the United States Department of Justice about what you've done to me. And what you've done to me is destroy my life with prosecutors of silence and violence from the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. And you're refusing to disclose the names of these prosecutors, even though I'm going to tell you again that you're receiving this documentation. Even though I'm going to tell you again I'm being violently attacked. I had to get an MRI because of this psychopath slamming my head down onto the concrete pavement outside Wegmans with 10 witnesses, your Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees, including this very unique-looking Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee with the crew cut and the tattoos. And she can easily identify this employee the Sheriff's Office attacked me, and she's not going to say anything because she's the blue wall of silence, just like you, Todd Baxter. Freedom of Information Law. The internal disciplinary records of documentation for employees of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, as Sheriff Todd K. Baxter is reprimanded, terminated, disciplinary employment at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. Brandy Cadiz will be on such a list because Brandy Cadiz committed a crime. You know exactly who he is, Todd Baxter. Was Brandy Cadiz counseled or disciplined prior to you firing him? I believe it was a robbery he committed on Ladder Road. What's the answer? What's the disciplinary process at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office? What is it? In the United States Army, you are a veteran, Sheriff Baxter. There's Uniform Code of Military Justice and the Article 15. What is it? What's the disciplinary process? You have none. You have no disciplinary process whatsoever. And that's a disgrace. Same Freedom of Information Law for the suits. The internal disciplinary records of documentation for employees, the Monroe County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, that District Attorney Sandra Doorley has disciplined, reprimanded, terminated from employment at the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. Should you fire Michelle Crowley, the director of the grand jury, who convenes the grand jury to investigate me and indict me when I don't know the grand jury's convened? The answer is yes. How is it possible that I'm not called to the grand jury? And the answer to how is it possible I'm not called to the grand jury is you're corrupt, Sandra Doorley. Michelle Crowley's corrupt. It's a humiliation of my life to be indicted. I would have went to the grand jury. First of all, I would have came to the district attorney's office for an interview so he could screen me. And I would have answered every single question to the grand jury. It was sat there forever long. The prosecutor or the judge or however it works inside a grand jury wants me. It's my understanding, I could be wrong, that there is no judge. It's just the assistant district attorney or you as the district attorney, Sandra Doorley, and there's the grand jury, and that's the way it is. I don't know how it works. In fact, I'm trying to find out how it works. How many grand jurors were there for me? What are their names? Can I contact the grand jurors? Is there a transcript? And the answer from you, Sandra Doorley, for every single one of those questions from me is total silence. You will refuse to disclose the names of the grand jurors. You refuse to disclose a vote. You will refuse to disclose a transcript because you're corrupt. The names and salaries of every public employee at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter. The names and salaries of every public employee at the Monroe County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra Doorley. In Albany and Washington, these public employees abuse overtime. In the Capitol, in Albany, in the Capitol, in D.C., both cities I worked in, 10 years and 5 years respectively, I did not receive overtime. Salary was salary. Is there overtime in the district attorney's office, and is there overtime in the sheriff's office? What's the answer? Do you have a top 10 list of your top 10 overtime earners in a Freedom of Information law? If you have, in fact, have overtime, because I don't know if you have overtime. If you have overtime, will you provide me with a list of your top 10 overtime employees? Do you have employees that make more money in overtime than they do in their base salary? Because that does happen with public employees. Total cost of overtime, time and a half, while paid beyond base salaries calculated. The Monmouth County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Todd Baxter. Total cost of overtime, time and a half, while paid beyond base salaries calculated. The Monmouth County District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Sandra Doorley. What's the answer? I used to watch this show, I don't know if it's still on, called American Greed. And I think it's one of the most popular shows. It's narrated by the actor Stacy Keach. And I would really be riveted watching this show about it. The reason why it's called American Greed, about the materialism and how people just covet these things in life, like cars and boats and other things. And how does that really elevate your life? And how are those really the beautiful things in life? And the answer is that they're not. So overtime is greed of the heart, where people just want more and more and more. They want more money. It's understandable if you want to make more money because you want to buy a house and you want to buy a nice car, and to have material things is good. Just because you seek material things doesn't make you unethical or immoral. It's good to have nice things and pursue nice things and be successful. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about greed of the heart. And I'm talking about abuse of overtime. I'm talking about abuse of taxpayer resources, taxpayer dollars. I'm talking about employees who are working overtime and not doing any work. It doesn't happen at the district attorney's office. It doesn't happen at the sheriff's office. And you refuse to answer. I will write this in more specific language, where I'm going to write, I want a list of your top 10 employees paid overtime. And you will refuse because you, Sandra Doorley, and you, Todd Baxter, are above the law. Do you know what sexual harassment is, Sandra Doorley? Can you define it? Do you know what sexual harassment is, Todd K. Baxter? Can you define it? It has multiple definitions and different ways that it destroys the ability of an employee to perform the responsibilities of a job. So I have seen this behavior in Albany and Washington, D.C., and it's behavior of and by sociopaths. I went to a fundraiser when I was a young man, when I was working for the Senate Majority Leader, and there was a state senator there, and he was there with a woman. It was an open secret that he was having an affair with this woman. And at the fundraiser, some of these fundraisers can last 2-3 hours. There's a lot of drinking. It's quite the time. He left the fundraiser, and then he came back, and the woman that he was with had her dress on inside out. And me and my fellow staffers talked about this, and this was something we would laugh about because we saw it. And on a more serious matter, there was a senator from Western New York, I will not say his name, and he was in his 70s. And he had been a senator in Western New York for 30 years. And he would walk on the concourse, which goes underneath the Empire State Plaza, and that's connected to the New York State Capitol. And he would walk around with this woman who was his employee. And he was married, and this is his girlfriend. And everybody knew that this senator and his girlfriend were together. And he's not alone. I knew from one of my coworkers, because then I would see this senator with the women in question, and he had 3 girlfriends, and he was married. So these senators, a long time ago, could not control themselves. And I think this goes back to even during the time Governor Nelson Rockefeller was in office. There's a story about Governor Nelson Rockefeller. When he was in the executive mansion, and he thought that his wife, Happy Rockefeller, was out of Albany. And she unexpectedly came home, and there's Governor Rockefeller with his girlfriend. Well, what happened is that the executive mansion had to be evacuated. There was some type of emergency, a fire or something. And evacuated from the executive mansion of Governor Nelson Rockefeller. On one side is Mrs. Nelson Rockefeller on the other side is the girlfriend of Governor Nelson Rockefeller. And an old timer told me this story because he worked for Governor Nelson Rockefeller. So I heard this story subsequently since. So the first time I heard this, I was 26, I think, in 1991. And I really liked this individual. He was a speechwriter for Senator Marino, and he worked for Governor Rockefeller. And he told me the story, and I was really astonished. Now I can laugh. I remember hearing this about Governor Rockefeller and his two girlfriends evacuating the executive mansion, thinking, that stuff really goes on now. Given the length of time I worked at Albany and my experience and my age, I'm not surprised that this stuff happens. So there's sexual harassment that's amusing and odd and different. And then there's sexual harassment that's serious and destroys an office, because if the boss is sleeping with an employee, the other employees know it, and that's going to destroy morale. And then there's preferential treatment and all sorts of other associated behaviors happening in an office when the boss is sleeping with an employee. When there's a direct relationship, an employee and the boss, that in and of itself, I believe under the law, is sexual harassment. I could be wrong because I don't have the hours and right about everything. So I'm tempted to find out from you about sexual harassment. And the way to find out is if you have expended taxpayer dollars to settle lawsuits for any number of reasons that it's sexual harassment. What's the answer? Is your answer, Sandra Doorley, there's no sexual harassment ever, there's no lawsuits whatsoever, and that's the end of it? Is your answer, Todd Baxter, there's no sexual harassment, there's no lawsuits, that's the end of it, stop asking us? Or I'll continue to write this freedom of information law until I hear an answer from you. What's the answer to this? The cost of taxpayers of Monroe County District Attorney Sandra Doorley expended taxpayer dollars to settle employment-related discrimination lawsuits fair to comply with Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. What's the answer to that question? You know the answer, Perry Duckles. What's the environment at the district attorney's office? When you have a bureaucracy as powerful as the district attorney's office, oftentimes the district attorney doesn't know anything, and then the number two runs the place, and the other employees feel more comfortable and confident in coming to the number two instead of the boss. I think that you run everything at the district attorney's office, Perry Duckles, and Sandra Doorley is just this pathetic figurehead, especially given a radical decline of her health. And how's her health? That's legitimate to ask about her health, don't you think, Perry? How's the health of the district attorney? Does she go into the office for 40 hours a week or not? I'm going to contact you about her, and I'll be on YouTube about the health of the district attorney. So, freedom of information law. The cost of surveillance device purchased with taxpayer dollars in Monroe County Sheriff Todd K. Baxter and fixed to a building 2025 Penfield Road to monitor Christopher Chichester walks through the parking lot next to the building. Did you hear what I just said? What did you think about the way that sounded, Todd? Because that's the freak show, what I just read. You're the freak show. Here it is right here. I don't have a close-up. I'm going to show you a close-up photograph of this fucking contraption that you bought, Todd Baxter. But it's affixed to this building right here. Right there. Isn't that right, Elliot Roth? Elliot, what's on the side of that building? And I've sent you multiple photographs of it. It's your surveillance device. You bought it. You affixed it to that building. I'm on it because Gugina Harper showed me the images. How much did you pay for it? Todd Baxter. And you will refuse because you exist in 1984 of denial. The cost of taxpayers for photography session approved by Monroe County Sheriff Todd K. Baxter for 10 public employees underwater in a pool. I go to your Facebook page, I think it was, or your official Monroe County Sheriff Office page, and there are these 10 employees underwater in a pool. What is going on there, Todd Baxter? Where was this taken? Is it taxpayer dollars? Is it a private event? It's not a minor thing. If this is during normal working hours and your employees are suited up in wetsuits and finding a pool to jump into and then hiring a photographer to take a picture, and that's on county time, then then county taxpayers, the people of Monroe County, pay for that. Is it a private event or not? Are they on county time or not? You refuse to answer. The cost for a hotel and plane ticket for Monroe County Sheriff employing Ryan Fisher attended the Super Bowl in Atlanta, Georgia on February 3rd, 2019. How do you possibly send Ryan Fisher to Stars and Bars, Georgia? If there is a state that is more radically different than New York, than Georgia, I'd like to know what it is, because it's Georgia and Alabama to me. And I spent 2 years and 4 months in Kentucky. And I love Kentucky. But Kentucky doesn't have the Stars and Bars, and Kentucky doesn't have other things Georgia and Alabama have. Georgia. Ryan Fisher's in Georgia. Why, Todd Baxter? Was it for a conference? I talked on a previous YouTube about these conferences and what a disgrace they are. Did you send Ryan Fisher to a conference, and why is he there with his dog? It is bizarre for him to take his dog. I understand you need a canine unit. And canine dogs are effectively police officers because of their beautiful, perfect sense of smell. I've seen this on these shows about police officers and how a canine can sniff and find drugs, I believe, and really be of an assistance to law enforcement. But is Ryan Fisher from Atlanta, Georgia, just for a good time for a conference, and he just decided to take his dog down there? I'm trying not to laugh. What's the reason Ryan Fisher is in Atlanta, Georgia? What is it? Is it for a conference? Why did he take his dog? How much was the plane ticket for Ryan Fisher? How much was the hotel for Ryan Fisher? How much was the care for his dog Lola? What are the answers? This is again where you're not accountable to anyone or anything. If this is a private trip where taxpayer dollars were not expended, then you should tell me. But he's there in his uniform. When you're in the military, and you as a veteran should know, when you're in your uniform, you're on the time of the military. And everything you do in that uniform, you're accountable for. If Ryan Fisher's in his uniform in Atlanta, Georgia, he's a Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee on county taxpayer time. And there he is with his dog. What are the answers to these questions, Todd Baxter? And your answer is that I should be arrested for asking these questions. In the 101st Airborne Division, there is the division run. And this happened 3 times I was there, where every single soldier, and this is highly coordinated, you go for the 2-mile run instead of just doing it with your unit that day. The whole division runs. And on the division run, you will see soldiers fall out, just like on a battalion run or squadron run, where if you have 20, 30, 40, 50 soldiers, there's certain soldiers that cannot keep up. And as you're continuing to run, you see them fall back, fall behind, fall out. And it's a disgrace. And when I was on a division run, I would see these guys falling out, falling behind. And I'd be thinking, it's one thing to fall out if you're in your squadron or battalion run and you can't meet the physical training standard of the 2-mile run. It's another thing on division run when you're doing this. What are the physical training standards? Can your employees, Todd Baxter, run 2 miles without stopping? And it doesn't even matter what the time is. Can they do it? I would guess that 50% of your employees, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, cannot run 2 miles without stopping. Doesn't even matter what the time is in 30 minutes. Because they're overweight. And you're overweight, Sheriff Todd Baxter. You have these employees that are 50 and 60 years old, 50 plus years old, 60 plus years old, that have been Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees for 20 years and 30 years, and you do not forcibly retire them. And they are a physical threat to themselves, and also they're a threat to anybody in law enforcement operations because they do not have the required physical strength in their bodies, especially to repel violent criminals. Todd Baxter, do you know violent criminals attack the police? Todd, baby, there's a door behind me. Can you see that door, the outline of it? You psychopath cops like to brag to each other about how you go through doors together. Are you going to be coming through this door for me, Todd? That's what I'd like to know. How many doors have you been through, Todd? Did you sit around with your Jonestown Kool-Aid drinkers talking about all the doors you've been through? So anyway, to be a police officer, you separate yourself from the rest of American citizens because your life is forever altered and damaged because your brain is damaged. Police officers that are on the job for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, especially the ones that get there 20, are forever altered. And I'm not talking about it in a good way. You are permanently changed and damaged when you've done that time. You're permanently changed and damaged, Todd Baxter, and you will be for the rest of your life. Today in your Monroe County Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, we hired Michael Radler after his 20-plus year career with the Monroe County Sheriff's Office ended. Is Michael Radler paid private money to work at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office run the campaign accounts you created, Todd Baxter, in 2017? Is Michael Radler paid private money to work at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office from the campaign accounts you created in 2021 when you ran for re-election, Todd Baxter? On the payrolls, paid $0. Why? What's the answer? I do not know the legality of a public employee paid $0 receiving private money to go into work. What is the answer to that question? And when I contact New York State Controller Thomas P. DiNapoli, one of the first examples I would cite to demand an audit of your office is $0 Michael Radler, just like the 10-plus employees on the last page of the payroll paid $10,000 or $12,000. And are they the children of your employees? Are you using the children of your employees paying the children of your employees $10,000 to $12,000 to increase the salary of your full-time employees? What's the answer to that question? What does a $10,000 Monroe County Sheriff Office employee do on the job? And are these children? Do you have part-time employees? How's that work? You're accountable to no one. You refuse to answer. At your jail, you do not separate the non-violent inmates from the violent inmates. I was in there with a large man, 6'8", 300 pounds, charged with murder. And I was told that this man was charged with murder by an 80-year-old Bob. So I'm in here with an 80-year-old man who was in a domestic incident. I'm not going to call it violence because he told me what he did, and I don't think Bob committed a crime. So 80-year-old Bob is telling me about this murder, and then I saw his picture in the Democrat Chronicle, and 80-year-old Bob was correct in telling me this man murdered his neighbor. I'm eating right next to this man, this murderer. Separate the violent inmates from the non-violent inmates at the jail, Todd Baxter, to protect each. And the elderly inmates, like this 80-year-old Bob, put them in a different area. You can separate and segregate inmates based on their crimes, based on their age, based on other factors to prevent violence at Monroe County Jail. And the fact that you don't do this, and I have to tell you how to operate your jail, is a disgrace. 3 names, Sandra Doorley, and you will refuse to disclose 3 names to me. Documentation for the case of Christopher Chizes for John P. Lomenzo Jr. in Penfield Court. What is the name of the prosecutor? Sandra Doorley. Prosecutor silence. Documentation for the case for Christopher Chizes before Paul C. Metzer in Penfield Court. What is the name of the prosecutor? Sandra Doorley. Prosecutor silence. Sandra Doorley. Documentation for the case for Christopher Chizes for Alex Renzi in New York State Supreme Court. What is the name of the prosecutor? Sandra Doorley. Prosecutor silence. Sandra Doorley. How am I in jail when a prosecutor doesn't talk in court? Freedom of information law. List of defendants in Penfield Court before John P. Lomenzo Jr. That will include the name Dan Blouse III. Do you know who he is, St. Doorley? List of defendants in Penfield Court before James P. Mullen Jr. Do you know the name Jermaine L. Benman? James P. Mullen Jr. A list of defendants in Penfield Court for Paul C. Metzer. Do you know the name Chris Chichester? Paul C. Metzer. Send me a list of defendants in Penfield Court. And 2 disgusting, sickening hacks. And you refuse. So, there it is. What I just read, you will receive in the next 48 hours. Perhaps tomorrow, I don't know. But you're definitely getting it in the next 40 hours. And those are 19, and you will refuse to comply with every single one. Why is that? Well, Todd, I have a quote here about your employees. Here, this is you, Todd. You're describing your relationship with your employees. Quote, I work with retards. So that's from There's Something About Mary, and I love that film. And I was thinking about that because that's what I think about your employees at the sheriff's office. You're not there mentally. You're completely finished with life, obliterated from life. I'm not exaggerating. You are not there, Todd Baxter. Gertrude Stein said there's no there there. There's no there with you, Todd Baxter, and you, Sandra Doorley. There's no there. You do not exist. And you know why? There's no there. What I just read to you, these Freedom of Information Law documents on September 25th. You've already received them. Here they are right here. On the 17th, the 19th, the 24th, the 23rd. You already got them. So, this right here, I have them all together. This is 100 Freedom of Information Law documents, and you're going to refuse to comply with every single one. So, in 1966, the United States Supreme Court ruled on Miranda versus Arizona. This is a case with Ernesto Miranda and how the fanatical cops didn't read him his rights. And now for 50 plus years, there's the Miranda right. I'm not going to go into that because you know what that is, but this is what I'll tell you. I've never heard Miranda. Why is that? How am I arrested 6 times? 6 times I've never heard Miranda. Do you not Mirandize citizens, Todd Baxter? I've never once heard Miranda and been in jail 6 times. How is that? I'm going to do as much research as possible. I was even thinking about reading a book on Miranda, When I go to YouTube, I will have knowledge about the case and about Miranda, because I believe that it is required. Not for me. Why have I not heard Miranda? And is it not required? Has there been a Supreme Court decision I'm not aware of where it is no longer required, the Miranda right? I don't know. It's my understanding that Miranda versus Arizona, passed in 1966, is the law of the United States of America. And police in the United States of America need to read criminal suspects to Miranda rights. And I've never heard the Miranda right. And I've been in double jeopardy. I leave my residence at 70 Liberty Pole Way, which is the humiliation of my life, and I'm hoping to be out of that residence soon. And I walk down Penfield Road because I'm going to the Penfield Public Library. And I see a Monroe County Sheriff Office vehicles passing me. One vehicle passes me, 2, 3, 4, 5 vehicles pass me. You followed me from 70 Liberty Pole Way in Rochester, New York to Penfield Road. And you converge on me on Penfield Road. And you arrested me alongside Penfield Road. 5 of your vehicles, 10 plus you employees. I'm placed in the backseat of the vehicle. I say, what am I being arrested for? And on the computer screen of the Monroe County Sheriff Office employee that he pointed to, it says attempted felony assault. And then I say to him, I've already been in Livingston County Jail in Geneseo, New York for this concoction by $85,000 Don Benedetto and Houlihan, the perjurer, before Michelle Crowley's grand jury. So I was in Monroe County Jail for 5 days. And then I'm brought to Alex Renzi. And I told him in court that I was already in Livingston County Jail. And I explained the detail to Alex Renzi what happened. And he released me. And that's the last time I was in jail. The last time I was in jail, it was for double jeopardy, Todd Baxter. And Sandra Doorley, if I'm going to be in jail, it should be because I faced a jury and a jury verdict. And a jury ruled on me. Why have I not faced a jury? I did not know it was this easy, this simple, to destroy a life with one judge, where you can just be arrested, placed in front of this one judge, and this one judge rules you guilty. And then when I'm in Livingston County Jail, my excellent, dedicated public defender, Regina Harper, and Regina, thank you for everything you've done for me, and God bless you, came to Livingston County Jail. And I said, Regina, when am I getting out? And that's when she said to me, quote, the judge is holding you, end quote. I'm being held in Livingston County Jail in Geneseo by this $28,000 skinhead widow, Paul C. Metzler. I'm not being told. That's the sick lunatic fringe. And the same sick lunatic fringe, $28,000 skinhead widow, Paul C. Metzler, is refusing to provide me a list of defense in Penfield Court. So, in the next 24 to 48 hours, you, Sheriff Todd Baxter, and you, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, will receive the Freedom of Information law, where I'm demanding you disclose information to me, and you will refuse to comply with every single document because you, District Attorney Sandra Doorley, and you, Sheriff Todd K. Baxter, are above the law.